Zoe Foster, welcome to Booktopia.
Thank you for having me.
I want to know what made you want to be a writer. You seem to be an extrovert. You've got the makeup thing all sewn up. So why would you want to write?
I was initially sort of gently pushed into it by Mia Friedman, who was my sort of boss and mentor at the time, and she could see that I was getting a bit antsy in my job at Cosmo and just needed another challenge. And she just sort of said, for God's sake, write a book or something. And I was like, you know, as a beauty editor, you do have this extremely strange and wonderful life. It's very odd and privileged. And so I just started writing down anecdotes, and I didn't even really mean for it to be fiction. In fact, it started as a bit of a memoir at the age of 25, which is hilarious. And then I had some good advice to fictionalise it. So it was by all means an accident, but a happy one. And I found it's not easy to write a novel, but I don't find it hard.
Do you ever feel like you are actually living in a chick lit novel? Because you've got the elements of glamour that are kind of essential to that.
That's how Air Kisses came about, because I was living a wonderful life in a glossy magazine, and I was single, and there was so much excitement and thrill in writing that first novel because I had so much content. I was very lucky. And my accountant always says to me, keep living this life, don't ever buy an apartment or anything because you need it for your books. Okay, thanks, more shoes. But yeah, after a few novels I've used up all my own stuff, so I've had to actually become a proper fiction writer. And that's a bit harder because you know, I've used up a lot of my best anecdotes and characters, so I start to sort of Frankenstein people into things and look at the zeitgeist. Like with The Younger Man, there was a lot of cougar talk and older woman, younger man stuff. So yeah, I feel like I am living a wonderful life ripe for that sort of thing. I have some excellent friends that are full of character, so I'm pretty lucky in that sense.
Now, your father is a very different kind of writer. He's a sort of pillar of literary fiction. He's a Miles Franklin winner. When he found out that you wanted to be a writer, did he have any advice for you?
Yes, it was to dissuade me heavily. Yeah, he's kind of always said, don't be a writer, there's no money in it, and it's hard. But he writes, you know, proper masterpieces, things that take him years to research and write, whereas I write top of head, anecdotal, you know, fun stuff that is hard in its own way, but it isn't, you know, as challenging as what he's doing. So he's very proud of me because he sees that I've gone in the complete opposite direction to him, and I can't say enough about how helpful it's been to have profile going from, you know, working at a masthead like Cosmo, say, and moving into books, because people sort of know who you are, and it's hard to be heard and to be read, and I can't underestimate how helpful that was.
So introduce us to Lily, the heroine of your new book, The Wrong Girl.
So Lily is, she's a 29-year-old producer on a TV show, morning breakfast show, and she kind of was symbolic to me of how a lot of young women are at that age and at that stage of their career when, particularly the Gen Ys, of which I am one, so I'm allowed to say it, but you feel like you want to be higher than you are and quicker than it's taking.
So that's the entitlement thing, isn't it? The entitlement generation.
Yeah, it very much is, and it's not always a bad thing because I think it shows, you know, drive, but sometimes it's not the path that is, it's not the path that is necessarily cut out for you. And as Lily finds, it's, you know, what she thought she wanted so much, the big title and the fancy job and impressive thing, is not actually perhaps what she needed or was best for her. And everything works out in the end, as it often does in life, you know. But I wanted to explore that a little bit because she's a bit of a rascal and a bit entitled, and I think that's quite prevalent. And I always make sure that my protagonist has a strong professional arc as well. It's not just a romance book because we're multifaceted young women, and there's always a big friendship storyline as well.
Yes, so in this book she's got a flatmate called Simone. Tell us about Simone.
Well, Simone is an ultra babe. She's, you know, super gorgeous swimsuit model, like painfully earnest, Mrs. Kale Smoothie, loves, you know, inspiring quotes on her Instagram. You know, she's out there a lot, this character, I thought, and I think she's quite funny in that sense, but particularly because she goes out every weekend and puts a lot of things up her nose and drinks too much and is some crazy party pig. But then through the week she's like this yogi who works at a health food cafe. So I thought she was a funny sort of contradiction. And a good balance for Lily, who's a bit of a tomboy and a bit of a rat and just would rather eat junk food and sit on the couch on her Friday night. So I thought they were a good pairing.
Tell me about the idea of a suboitical. Did you actually come up with that word?
Well, there's a few of my girlfriends who've done it, you know, in little stints here and there, just having a guy detox. Like with anything in life, I think sometimes you need a break from something, whether it's alcohol, a certain friend, men, whatever, just to reappreciate them, but also get a bit of distance and clarity. So Lily and Simone both have, you know, a couple of dickheads come into their life, and it's like, that's it, no more. Let's just take our time, focus on our career and ourselves and do that. But as the universe so often does, the moment you decide to do something, it will throw you in the other direction. So that's when our lead male comes into the picture. But yeah, I think a guy detox is not a terrible idea. I think it's...
How long do you think a suboitical should last?
Well, they kind of go for 6 months in the book, but I reckon 3 months is heaps. You really... That's a long time. It depends, you know, some people are on an involuntary one for a lot longer than that.
Yeah, it turns into the kind of fasting diet that you didn't plan.
Exactly.
Now, the world of cooking shows, that's where the book is set, and it's hilarious that in the acknowledgements at the back you thank Jamie Oliver and Curtis Stone for helping you create that world, and of course you've never actually met either of them. Why did you choose that world? What appealed to you about it?
Well, I've done some breakfast TV, you know, I worked on The Circle for a little while and really enjoyed that environment, and it's no accident that in chick lit and romantic comedies it's based on a magazine or a TV show or within publishing in some arena. So it's an interesting world and it's a glamorous world, and I wanted Lily to be part of that as sort of the anti that world, because she's not really very glamorous at all. But I wanted her to exist in a glamorous environment. So the chef that comes in and sort of turns everything upside down, you know, her job is like so unglamorous. She's chopping up onions before the show and fixing the fake fridge and things like that. But then this hunky chef comes in and it suddenly changes everything.
So you've got the dad who's a writer, and you've got Hamish, who is all sorts of things, but obviously whom we know very well as a comedian and as a kind of media personality. Is he your first reader? Yeah, in fact earlier than that in the process, I sort of run all my ideas by him and my characters, and I often workshop things when I'm a bit stuck with him, and he's got a brilliant mind, full stop, but he's also got an excellent understanding of characters and developing them, and particularly the male character, because he's one, but also he has a lot of male friends and sort of knows how they think and would act. So yeah, he's a very helpful sounding board, but also a great support, and yeah, he was one of my first readers, and he's a fan, and that's beautiful because I'm a fan of him. We're fans of each other's work, but yeah, it's really nice when someone you admire likes your work and you're writing. So I mentioned that you've thanked Jamie Oliver and you've thanked Curtis Stone, and you've also done a rather unusual thing in terms of the dedication of the book. So tell us about that.
Well, it's dedicated to peanut butter, but I was just like, you really were pregnant when you wrote that, weren't you? I'm like, yeah, but I love peanut butter anyway. I'm not good at earnestness and having a proper dedication. I never really was, but there's a lot of food throughout the book, and food is very big at the moment, particularly junk food. There's this onus on, you know, everything's cool, it's junk food, party food. And so one of the key recipes in the book is a peanut butter based one, and I'm a big fan. So I just thought I would tell you. Shows you how serious I take it.
How much does social media and the kind of technology that makes communication so instant play a role in this book? Because there's a lot of kind of texting and back and forth between Lily and Simone that's kind of immediate, responsive.
Yeah. Well, that's how we live, all my friends and I. You know, we are sort of a generation that find phone calls intrusive and annoying, and you need to plan them, otherwise they're rude. So we're all texters and emailers and Instagrammers and Twitterers, and I think that's, you know, in all of my books that sort of communication's been there through text or email or whatever, because I don't think many of them are picking up the phone in real life and having a guest space, especially when they live together. So I think it's indicative of the generation, certainly, but it helps get the story moving along quickly.
Is there ever a dark side to that from your point of view in terms of old-fashioned notions of privacy?
For
For this generation where everything is, Instagrammed and Facebooked and everything else, do you ever worry that maybe someday someone's going to intrude on some part of your life that you would like to keep private?
Yes, I think that's a salient question, but I also think there's an element of control that is, well, it depends on your profile, I guess. A lot of people don't have that many people following them, so it's just literally a way to communicate with their friends about what they're up to. When you have a bit of a bigger profile, you have to be sure about what you're putting out there is basically a press release, and that anyone can take it and use it, that photo or whatever it may be. So you have to be smart about it, but also I think it's a really clever tool to humanize yourself and to communicate who you are and what you're doing and where you're at, and I think it's fun. Maybe there are some negative implications that we'll discover down the track, but you have to be aware that whatever you're putting out there is gone now. It's public. It could come up whenever. And I do worry when I look at younger girls putting selfies of themselves up in bikinis when they're 14, 15 years old, how that will come back later.
Have you ever done anything on social media that you've regretted?
I'm probably too conscious, like I overthink it a lot before I post anything. For a few reasons, because I want to make sure that what I'm putting out there is not on brand, but it is me. So if there's a big crisis in the world, I'm feeling it and I'm sad, but I don't think it's helpful for me to add to the conversation because that's not why people would follow me. So I sort of treat it as very literally a vessel of communication to people who've kindly chosen to follow me. So always a sense of fun, keeping things light. It's a wonderful tool for self-promotion, obviously, when you've got things coming out and going on. And in terms of personal life, we're a public couple and I understand that, but we kind of control it a little bit by choosing what we put out there.
Zoe Foster, thank you very much.
My pleasure, thank you.